Hi everyone, welcome back to Ameritech Talks. I'm Christine, Growth and Community Manager at Ameritech, where we're building powerful connections between visionaries in tech and the communities they serve. Today's guest is someone doing deeply important work at the intersection of healthcare, ethics, AI, and mission-driven leadership. Waddell Fields. Dell is working as a fractional CTO in healthcare, helping scale systems in compliance heavy environments, building trust in tech teams, and balancing purpose with growth. Also joining us is Greg Ross, CEO of Ameritech, who's always championed tech with heart and impact. Dell, Greg, welcome. Let's dive in.
Hey Del, hey Christina.
Hello.
Dell, to start off, can you share your journey with us? How did you move into healthcare and what led you to take on fractional CTO roles?
Oh boy. So I've been in IT for about 40 years or more now, working with various companies, mostly with Fortune 500 companies. I've worked with the likes of AT&T, Verizon, Levi Strauss, Carrier Corporation, Voya, Aetna, which a lot of companies know, and then a lot of startups that a lot of companies don't know, like MD Ally. I've also worked as a consultant with PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I've actually moved to Georgia because Georgia Pacific actually needed me. So I've worked with a number of Fortune 500 companies and a number of startup companies as well. But the question about what moved me into health tech is more related to my work as an EMT. I was an EMT in New York for a number of years, and I saw the fact that a lot of technology was missing in the healthcare sector. There were a lot of innovations going on in healthcare, especially when it comes to emergency services. But I also found that when it came to the larger companies, they were somewhat falling behind. So I decided to get into technology for healthcare. And now with the innovation of AI, a lot of the healthcare companies are looking for AI solutions to help improve their productivity as well as improve efficiencies within their organization. So that's kind of what moved me into that area, and finding that work as a fractional CTO helped me work with a lot of different companies. I was actually a consultant, and that's how I ended up working with a number of Fortune 500 companies. But now I'm finding that as a fractional CTO, it just gives me the ability to work with a lot more companies.
That's fascinating. I absolutely love that, and I love the mission, and that you are intact from the start, and it really shows. What inspired you to move into mission driven healthcare? What was there a moment or challenge that made you realize this was the path you wanted to take?
Yeah, so mission driven is very close to my heart. I've been a personal and professional coach, mastery coach for a number of years now, for about 25 years. And I've found that there's certain processes that really help to turn people around, turn their lives around, and help them determine what purpose they have in their life and which direction they want to move in. And I found that to be the same for businesses. Businesses really have to have a keen eye on what their purpose is and the ability to focus on the clients that will best be served by that purpose. So when we talk about mission driven, it's also related to purpose driven. And when it comes to healthcare, sometimes a lot of healthcare companies can get shifted based on certain needs that they see and end up losing track of the technology that can help them. In addition to that, there's a lot of technology out there for different companies to use, from database, cloud, to various technologies that they can utilize in their office. And a lot of times, as I mentioned, they struggle with trying to determine what technology is more in alignment with their mission, with the purpose of their organization. So that's what inspired me to move more into mission driven health tech than just helping them with anything else that they may need, but helping them to actually see what it is in the marketplace in terms of tools and technology that will really be in alignment with their mission and their purpose.
That's so powerful. These personal motivations often give tech real soul and direction. Do you have any memorable stories where technology you built or oversaw actually made a life or death difference or changed outcomes in healthcare?
Yeah, that's another thing that inspired me as well. One of the companies, the startup that I worked with called MD Ally, um, worked with two counties in Florida. And as you know, Florida from time to time, pretty much every year, they'll have a storm or a hurricane come through. And during that time, their 911 lines get tied up. So what MD Ally does is if the dispatcher determines that the call is not a high acuity call, which means an ambulance is not required, but the person should talk with a doctor, then they'll transfer the call to MD Ally. So during times of storms and hurricanes, MD Ally is very, very one of the point companies that the different counties use to transfer those calls that are not high acuity calls, but where the patient probably does need to talk with a doctor. So during those times, it reduces the number of people who actually go into the ER. And therefore, we're actually saving lives indirectly by making sure that the resources that are available to those who need it most. In addition to that, I've seen situations where a call was transferred to MD Ally, and because MD Ally does have the unique ability to actually see the patient on the phone, there's been at least one or two incidences where the doctor was able to see the patient, was able to determine that the patient was having a more serious condition than what the dispatcher really initially assumed the situation was. And so they were able to then call the dispatcher back and ensure that an ambulance was on the way to that person.
Hey, Dell, I had a question along those lines for you. So you and I had a chance to go over a long list of different categories of innovation that can impact not just human lives, but also the company's bottom lines that are implementing this kind of innovation. Can you give us a couple of other examples just of different types of solutions or how maybe AI can impact an organization, maybe when it comes to revenue or when it comes to time savings? It's great to hear how technology is saving lives, but give us a couple other categorical examples of how it could benefit an organization.
Well, as you know, time saving definitely affects the bottom line. It goes right to the bottom line. So I'll give you one example. There are different tools, AI tools, that doctors are using now that enable them to write up their diagnoses as well as any of the notes that they have to write for HIPAA compliance after the call. So what these AI tools do is they're listening to the call and they're actually writing a summary of the encounter between the doctor and the patient. So at the end of the call, the doctor has a concise summary of what exactly happened. Not only that, he or she will also have the transcript of the call. So he can review the information, he or she can review the information at that time after the call, and it really, really saves time. And especially with some of the doctors where they're going from one call to another, to another, to another, and sometimes that information will get jumbled up and like who had this and who had that, and what did I prescribe to this person as opposed to that person. That information will be documented for them in various AI tools that are out there currently. So implementing those for the doctor's offices as well as for the hospitals is very important. And again, it goes right to the bottom line by saving time.
Yeah, fascinating. Thanks, Del.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Del. So, another question from me. One major tension in health tech is innovation versus compliance. How do you keep pushing forward while navigating privacy, regulation, security, and ethical boundaries?
That's a very good question, excellent question, because that's one of the areas that the C-suite in any healthcare company is constantly um, working through, determining, okay, what innovation is needed compared to what's going to help us stay within compliance. Um, so you'll have the dichotomy of tools and techniques that are out there to help you stay in compliance that cost you money, and then you also have innovations that help move your company forward. So trying to, one, ensure that any innovations that you put in place are going to still help you stay within compliance is one struggle that you'll have. And a lot of companies that are out there also help you with both of those at the same time, giving you innovations that, one, save time, that make you more productive or make your team more productive. And at the same time, also making sure that when you have to sit down for that audit once a year, that you'll have all the information in place that you need to pass the audit with flying colors.
That balance is
And
so
then,
tricky.
yeah, and then I was just also thinking about your question of how do you push forward while navigating privacy, regulatory, and ethical boundaries? That really talks to competition as well. So you want to push forward and make sure that you're providing the best services for your clients. At the same time, you want to make sure you're staying ahead of your competition. And at the same time, you want to make sure you're maintaining the privacy of your clients and staying within regulatory guidelines. So that is something that is always a challenge for every company. So the question how is carefully.
Okay, thanks so much. Next one. You operate in fractional CDO roles sometimes. What leadership lessons translate from full time to fractional? What changes and what stays the same?
Very good. So as a contractor, and same thing would be as a fractional, a lot of people that you're working with on a mission, on a project, are not people that you actually do their reviews. You're not working with them on a regular basis. You haven't been working with them for years. So there's that situation where the people that you're working with, they already have what they may call their day job, the stuff that they already have to do day to day. And now you're coming as a fractional CTO or as a contract project manager, let's say senior project manager, and you're giving them additional work to do. So what I find is critically important is ensuring that everyone understands the purpose. If, for example, Levi Strauss, my job there was to implement a hedge accounting system. That was something aside from everything else that had to be done in that company. But it was necessary so that Levi Strauss could then sell stock that following year to the public. So this was a requirement of the SEC. And that's what I find is very important when you're operating as a fractional CTO or if you're operating as a contractor, is helping the people that you're working with see the higher mission, see why it's important to the company, and see why it's important to them personally. And on that note, why it's important to them personally, it's important to recognize that people come to work for various reasons. Everybody's not just there for a paycheck. Paycheck is part of it for most of the people, for just about everyone. But also, people are there for other reasons. Sometimes it's recognition. Sometimes it's being able to be innovative, especially in the IT space. People just love innovating and creating new things. So it's important for a fractional CTO to understand the underlying drivers for each individual on their team so that they can make sure they're meeting those expectations, those drivers. with each of the people on the team to help make sure everything is moving forward. And those are some of the leadership lessons that I've learned throughout the years of working with various teams, especially working as a contractor, and then having my own teams as well. And
That
that's
insight is
something that stays the same. That's something that really never changes. That's something that stays the same. What does change for fractional CTO is helping the client or people that you're working with understand that fractional does not mean you get less than. You're getting the same from me if I was your full-time CTO as your fractional CTO. It's just that you're not paying for me full-time because the work I'm doing only requires, 2 to 3 days a week.
great, Del. That insight is gold. As I love to say at Ameritech, we love to work with good people who share our mission and who are mission driven themselves. In a health tech context, especially, trust is everything. How do you build trust and accountability in tech teams, especially when remote, distributed, or fragmented?
That's another excellent question. And that spans not just for fractional CTOs, it spans for um, people in all kinds of sectors where they're either coming in as a contractor or someone who's doing fractional work with a CTO, CFO. Um, that is a major question. How do you instill trust? And trust is earned. So people will look at the trust that you've earned from other companies and make the assumption that, okay, it's a good bet that I can trust this person. Let's get started. But over time, with that company, that's when you're actually earning their trust. It's always earned, whether you're remote, whether it's a hybrid situation where you're going in sometimes and other times remote, um, and also when it's fractional. Now, as you know, a lot of companies during the pandemic had to send their employees out remotely. Um, and so that was scary for a lot of companies. They wanted to be sure that the people were getting the work done. What I have found in many cases, and I worked remotely for the past few years, is that a lot of my people get more work done working remotely than they would in the office because there's, folks just meeting in the hallway, there's the water cooler, there's all kinds of other stuff going on. And I have team members that we get on a call at 9. I find out they've been on since 6 because they had an idea for something and they just jumped on. So, going back to answering your question, trust is everything, but trust is built, trust is earned, trust comes over time. Naturally you start off with giving people the benefit of the doubt and then you move forward. But for me, I help to build trust or the impression of trust in me by one, and having a new client connect with old clients and finding out how well I did with them and bringing up that issue shoot straight from the hip. Did I trust this guy? Also, that's important because in healthcare, we're working with HIPAA compliance. We're trying to, in the IT space, we're trying to make sure that people aren't hacking into the system and stealing information. So trust is more critically important in my role than in many other roles. So I have to build it quickly. I have to make sure I'm earning it very quickly. And a lot of times what I do is I know that the question is in their mind and I cut straight to it. I cut straight to how can you trust that I'm going to provide the services that you need? How can you trust? And I answer those questions for them. And it's a case by case basis naturally, but I make sure that I answer those questions for them right off the bat.
Yes, and that consistency, transparency, psychological safety piece can be overstated. Let's look ahead. Where do you think AI is heading in health tech, or more broadly, over the next 5 years? What excites you and what gives you pause?
Mm. Oh, I tell you, I love AI. I love how it helps me personally. I love how it helps me in terms of building a business. There's so much information that is gained by so many tools. One thing that a lot of people do struggle with is there's so many tools coming out so rapidly, so quickly. So one of my jobs is to uh, go to conferences, staying on top of all the new innovations that are out there, making sure that I'm watching all the news reels in a sense, and also making sure that I'm staying in the crowd and in the conversation with people who are actually the movers and shakers, you might say, in the AI space. But it is a very, very exciting time because tools are out there that are not just helping people save time, but it's helping them think differently about what they can do and what their companies can do. Um, it it was like with the onset of the internet. People were so excited about it. Wow, this is going to level the playing field. This is going to give us the ability to do so much more. It's the same thing now with AI, the ability to do so much more. One of the things that I started doing is actually starting to teach AI, but it's coming on so rapidly that people are just learning on their own. All they got to do is bring up a chat and say, teach me what you are and how you are.
That's so
So
true.
my major work now has been looking at all these tools and then trying to determine which tools are best for each of my clients.
I love that question. The future is powerful, but it's better if we build it thoughtfully. Greg, now on to you. You've seen many startups and health tech initiatives cross paths with Ameritech. From your vantage point, what stands out to you about Waddell's approach and where health tech is going?
Thank you, Christina. I love Dell's approach. So, the first time I met Dell, we had this great conversation about his focus areas, which align a lot with ours, right? Ethics, trust, compliance. You heard him talk about all of these things, right? Uh, Dell brings a tremendous depth of expertise to his consulting work that he does. And that comes from his experience managing transformations and innovations at some of the world's best companies. But I love that he's focused on the people, on ethical AI, on trust building. I think that's really, really great because the stakes are high when you're innovating and you're rolling out and deploying AI solutions within your business. You need partners you can trust who are focused on the people, focused on the right areas. The other thing that I love is he really understands that the different areas of the business where he can drive impact and value. So he talks a lot about revenue. He talks a lot about cost savings, driving efficiency, reducing risk, and improving the quality of people's lives. So I really love his kind of well-rounded approach. He's a trusted partner. He's someone that understands the technology way better than I do. So if I'm looking to lean on someone who can make recommendations when it comes to health tech, for sure, I'm going to give Dell a call.
Thank you.
Yeah, that really echoes with what I see. The combination of tech excellence and mission forward thinking is what gives ventures resilience and real differentiation. Del, before we close, how can our listeners connect with you? Are there places you're sharing content or projects people should keep an eye on?
Yeah, so I'm sharing content on LinkedIn, but one of the main sources of information for me is my website, lifeforgellc.com. At that website, you'll find a lot of information on our approach and what we do. We give a lot of free information away as well, and we have some tools on there, some assessment tools that companies can use to see where they stand currently with AI.
Perfect. We'll drop all links in the show notes so everyone can follow up. Waddell, thank you for sharing your wisdom, your stories, and your vision. You remind us that in health tech, especially with AI, purpose, responsibility, and trust are not optional extras, but foundations. Greg, thank you as well for being a steady voice in supporting these conversations and connecting builders and learners. To all our listeners, especially those in healthcare, AI, or communities rebuilding through tech, may this episode spark new questions, inspire bold action, and reinforce the value of leading with heart. Until next time, stay courageous, stay curious, and stay AI tuned.